Hello everyone, in this tutorial we'll be going over how to draw hair. So the first characteristic we're going to be talking about is the part of the hair. So the parting of the hair can be placed on different parts of the head, which I'm drawing right here. So these are 3 different examples of where it can be. Then from that part the hair will grow out. So when you're drawing those strands, just make sure the lines will go out from that portion of the parting. The next characteristic is volume. So on the left here, this character has no volume and the hair is very flat. So I like to think of it kind of like a sheet has been placed on the head and it's just draped over the head. Versus on the right side, where there's a lot of space from where the head begins to where the hair ends. And then if you look on the left side, there isn't any space from where the head begins and the hair ends. So also when you're drawing hair, just look at different reference photos and really try to pick up on these sorts of details, right? And so then here, when I'm drawing or coloring the hair, I like to always think of where the shadows are and where the highlights are on the hair. So generally, the hair is in the shadow right behind the neck or wherever it's like kind of tucked in behind the ear. Those are just different areas, common areas where you should be adding shadows. Then on the right side here, I like to draw hair, I like to map out the bigger shapes first before even thinking about drawing the strands. And I like to think of hair as as clumps or different sections, different parts to it. I don't worry about the details initially. I just think about the bigger picture. So I really suggest that whenever you're drawing hair, don't focus on the details, but just look at the bigger strands. And initially when you're beginning, I would say just draw the outlines of the hair. Don't draw each and every strand. That will really help you get like the overall shape in your head. Once you just notice these patterns, you'll really get better at drawing hair. So don't feel discouraged if initially the first time when you're drawing hair, it doesn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. Just keep practicing. Look at different references, especially like shampoo commercials are really great because it shows hair when it's in light and how it shines, where the highlights will hit on the hair. And I think that is the shampoo commercials provide great references. And also with the volume of the hair, don't just think about the hair volume on the top, also think about the sides of the hair as well, like how much it sticks out from the ears. Now moving on to the next characteristic, which I call the curliness of the hair, or better known as texture. So the first one is straight hair. Now I've drawn the different patterns on the bottom there, which is kind of covered up with my hands. I do apologize for that. But here with the straight hair, all the lines should be drawn downwards. It's always easier to draw downward lines rather than upward lines. And then notice how the hair kind of flips towards the end. So even if it's straight hair, there is a little bit bent to it. So just notice those details whenever you're looking at reference. Then for the second one, this is like a wavy hair texture. So the pattern that we're drawing here are these crescent moons. And you basically just keep repeating the pattern over and over again. Now kind of vary those crescent moons, like try to make some of them wider, some of them slimmer, to just add more intrigue or interest to the hair, to make it more realistic, right? So think about those crescent moons or those patterns as like the building blocks of hair, right? Now, here I've drawn like a medium-sized hair, but if you continue the pattern, you will get like longer hair, right? So you can also play around with the length of the hair as well. And then another thing you can also do is add flyaways. So draw some lines on the outside of the hair, like that point outwards, to show some flyaway hairs, because hair doesn't always fall in the same direction. Sometimes it goes in different directions, especially like on a bad hair day, you know? So yeah. Then the next hair that I will be drawing is the curly hair. So I want to talk about that one right away, even though we're still drawing this wavy hair, because curly hair can be challenging at times. So yeah, whenever I'm drawing curly hair, I like to think of it, or I like to visualize a spring. So I suggest you visualize that in your mind right now, a spring. So those are going to be the building blocks for this hairstyle. Then the spring has two sections, right? The parts of the spring that are coiling towards you that appear larger, and then there are parts that are coiling away from you. So those are the parts of the coil that is further away from you. So that will appear smaller. And those smaller sections are the ones that you should draw narrow, and the ones that are coming towards you should be drawn larger. So in the bottom right there, that pattern, I kind of shaded it backwards. Make sure you shade the narrow part darker, and the larger part, make sure you don't shade that, or you shade it lightly. That's the pattern that you want to go for. But yeah, and with voluminous hair, I always like to draw guidelines whenever I begin. So like for this one, because it's like a afro kind of style, I drew like a large circle around the head. And so whenever I'm drawing those springs and I'm about to pass that line, I'll stop drawing the curl. So that guideline just helps me keep that shape as like a large circle, like an afro shape. So yeah. So curly hair can be challenging to draw it sometimes, but just keep trying and draw from references. And if it becomes too overwhelming, just draw one coil, not even on a head, just like on the corner of your paper. Just keep drawing these spring patterns, and eventually you'll get the hang of it, and one day it'll just click and you'll get it. So yeah, if you can get this pattern, it's really fun just drawing. It's almost like a Zen tangle, you know. You keep drawing the same shape over and over again, and then you end up with a really cool drawing. So yeah. Then the fourth characteristic we'll be talking about today are bangs. So bangs can vary in length and size. So here I'm drawing longer bangs. These ones go all the way up to the eyebrows. And with the bangs, you can always vary the width of the bang. So some of the bangs you can make them narrower, some of them you can make it wider, and just play around with it, you know. And then also think about where each strand of hair ends, the clump of hair, think of where it ends. So some could be longer, some could be a little bit shorter, some can curl a little bit more. Yeah, and then here you can see where the hair parts. The bangs also will part there, so it kind of curves around that parting. So yeah, and always just look at references if you don't know how to begin to draw bangs. I would suggest to look at manga or anime characters. Most of those characters have bangs, so those are just really great references on all sorts of different bangs, on how to draw that. And here I was just drawing longer bangs, right? But then you can also have shorter bangs where the end of the bang and where the eyebrows start, there's like a larger gap there. So that's another style to try. And then also think about curtain bangs, right? So curtain bangs kind of part from the middle, and then you have like two swooping bangs on either side of the head, and it kind of just bends outwards away from the face. So look up images of that as well. And then here on the right side, I'm drawing like the side swept bang. So I'm just drawing lines starting from the top of the head, going all the way to the ear. So the hair will be tucked to the ear. And whenever I'm drawing different lines, I always like to think of where the line will start and where will it begin, even before the pencil hits the page. So I like to try to make that motion with my pencil, even though I'm not drawing anything. The pencil's just above the paper, so that I have a good idea of where the line should be placed. And it also just helps with creating nice flowing lines, because with hair, especially when you're drawing longer hair, you want to make the lines really, really smooth and flowy. So yeah, and also try to move more with your shoulder than your wrist whenever you're drawing. But yeah, and then the last characteristic we'll be talking about is, well, not really characteristic, but we'll be talking about ponytails and braids. So here on the left side, I'm drawing a ponytail, a high ponytail. And whenever you're drawing ponytails, think about where the elastic is in relation to the head. So here, since it's all the way at the top of the head, all the hair strands will go towards that elastic. And so you want to draw all the lines from the hairline to the elastic, and you want to kind of make a curve. So another way to think of it is imagine that elastic, and then think of all the strands radiating from that elastic. So it will radiate outwards, kind of like the sun, and all the hair strands will curve towards the hairline. And then with this one, I've really exaggerated the ponytail, so you can see it's like all the way at the top. It's peeking from the back of the head, and you can see the hair ponytail is peaked from the side. But usually the ponytail, if it's lower, you draw if the ponytail was lower, it would be hidden by the head, so you wouldn't actually see it. Now if you're drawing like a lower ponytail, then you would draw all the hair downwards, right? So yeah, so those are just some tips for ponytails. And over here we're drawing the braid. Now there are two main steps for drawing a braid. The first step is to draw a zigzag, and then the second step is to draw the curving lines away from the zigzag to create that each strand of the braid. So for creating those curving lines, what I like to do is to visualize how the strands will fold over and under that zigzag. And what I encourage everyone to do is actually pull up a picture of a braid, and then think about those three strands. So there's three strands, right, of a braid. What you want to do is then just trace one of those strands with your finger, and just notice how that strand is going over and under the zigzag. So once you get that image in your head, or you're able to visualize it, then it becomes easier to draw. And don't feel overwhelmed if you can't get it immediately. Drawing braids is quite tricky, so just try a couple times, and eventually you'll get the hang of it. And once you do, it's just like the greatest feeling ever. But yeah, here I'm just drawing the details, and I always like to draw like a guideline of like a V shape to create like a tapered braid before even starting to draw that braid. But yeah, this completes the tutorial. I hope this all was helpful for you all, and thank you all so much for watching.